All right. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. My name is John Shoemaker, and I am from the Department of Educational Technology. And my role is to help teach teachers technology integration. And today I am going to be facilitating the session on TypingClub, helping your students type like pros with TypingClub. So again, if you're just joining us, please feel free to introduce yourself in the chat. Let us know what grade levels you work with and what school you're at, and that'll help us out a little bit. And also, I put as a pinned post in the chat, if you did not go through ELM to get here, please be sure to make sure that you register for this session in ELM. Some of you may have just saved the calendar invite. We would like you to also register in ELM. And if you don't register, we will add you manually. You do not have to do the follow-up. They just want us to have you go through ELM. So again, my name is John Shoemaker. I work for the Department of Educational Technology as a technology program specialist. My main role is Scholastic Esports, and I also am in charge of our technology conference. I'm not in charge of TypingClub, but we have so many sessions going on today that I'm just here to moderate. So a few norms before we get started. Please be sure to keep your mic muted until the end. If you have questions, we can take those at the end. We can also ask them in the chat box. Emily has access to the chat as well. And you're also welcome to turn your cameras on if you feel comfortable. No pressure. And if I remember correctly, it won't even be in the recording. It's only whoever is talking. So, but it's much nicer to be able to see who you're talking to when you're presenting. So I always love having cameras on if possible. So with that, I am going to introduce Emily from TypingClub, and I will turn it over to her.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for being here. I see in the chat we've got a lot of elementary folks, so that's great. That's where we can focus a lot of our time. I'm going to start by showing you what the teacher portal looks like in TypingClub. And then from there, we can look at the courses that are available for you to assign to your students. We can look at the different progress monitoring tools that you have. And then we'll take a look at what your students are actually going to see when they're logged into the program. So this is an example of what you will see when you log into your teacher account. Depending on your role, certain menu items may or may not be there. I'm also just going to give a disclaimer now. My dog is in the background here doing all kinds of fun things, so hopefully she doesn't make herself known too many times, but she is pretty cute at least. So here's where you would see just a quick overview of the activity for your specific students. And if you scroll down, there is a live activity feed that you can look at while the students are actively typing. And this should give you at least, you know, an idea that is very close to real time of what they're doing at any given moment. It looks like I don't have, here's a typing lesson. So what you would be able to do on specific types of typing lessons is you can also watch a playback of the student's attempt and see how they did. Over here, we've got the classes tab. And this is where you will see all of the classes where you are assigned as an instructor.
Emily, can I help in one quick second? I just wanted to, I also added it over there. But for those of you who are just joining us, if you've never done it, you can get to TypingClub through the portal. So just go to the district portal and search for TypingClub and click on that application, and it should let you in.
Thank you. Yeah, so in this classes tab, there are some bulk update options if you've got more than one class assigned to you. There are things that you can change for multiple classes at a time. This My Week Starts On is going to have to do with daily and weekly time goals that you can set. So if you set a weekly time goal, you want to pick which day of the week your week actually is going to start on for that. Here's where you can update those goals in bulk if you'd like to. And then the scoreboard visibility is going to be more of an admin decision if you're going to have access to that or not. And then this we generally wouldn't recommend enabling. This would mean that your students can complete the lessons in any order they want to. This tends to come in in special situations where you have a student who maybe they've done the program before at another school, but they've moved to this school and you want to let them skip ahead to where they left off, things like that. You can also assign courses to your classes in bulk if that's something you'd like to do. We will look at these courses more in depth soon, but to see which courses are covered in the subscription that your district has purchased for you, you can go to Subject and click on Typing. And actually, our typing courses in all languages are going to be available to you if that ends up being useful. By default, it's going to filter to the English courses. And then you might be able to see custom courses that you or other teachers have created. We would generally recommend just going to Managed by EdClub. Those are the courses that we manage and update periodically, and that's what you'll see here. If we click on a specific class, let's see. Let's look at this typing homeroom here. You'll see an overview of the class, when it was created, the most recent activity the students in this class have had, when the class is most active. Class codes you don't need to worry about because your account is auto-rostered, so that is not going to be important to you. And then this is a brief summary of some of the class settings that we'll look at in a moment, as well as the overall typing performance for the class. If things have been changed, such as assignments, you would see that in the record history down here. And there's also a class activity punch card. And what this does is it just gives you a quick visual reference of the days of the week and times of day when your students tend to be the most active in the program. If we go to students, you'll see a list of your students that are enrolled in your class. There are certain customizable settings that we'll look at in the student portal. If you decide you don't like those anymore and you'd like to default back to just the basic settings, this is where you could do that. Instructors will just show you the instructors assigned to the class. And then assignments is a pretty important one. This is another place where you could assign specific courses just to this particular class. It's also where you can adjust some settings. So if I click on options next to one of the courses I've assigned, I have the option to set a prerequisite. So for example, maybe I want to do a supplemental practice typing course once my students have finished their grade level typing course. I could set the grade level typing course as a prerequisite for the extra course that I want them to do later on. You can also adjust the requirements for the lessons at the class or student level. This is how you would do it for the entire class. One thing to be aware of here is that if you increase or decrease the speed requirements, that's not going to be setting a specific speed requirement for every single lesson. What it's going to do is it will increase or decrease the default requirements by a certain interval. So if I type 15 in here, what I'm actually doing is increasing the course requirements by 15 words per minute for each lesson. And the reason for that is because the words per minute is going to vary depending on the lesson type, and it's also gradually going to get more difficult as students become more advanced. If you set a minimum required accuracy for the lessons, that will be a blanket requirement for all of the lessons in a course. So if you want your students to maybe slow down, take their time a little more, you can raise the requirement here. It's also possible to reduce it if students are having a harder time. And then here is where you could control which lessons the students have access to. If for some reason you decide that you only want students to be able to access the first 25 lessons for a certain period of time, you can do that here. The courses are self-paced, and students will work at different paces, just by default, the way that things are set up. So if you want there to be a limit, that's available here. Otherwise, you totally can just let them go at their own pace and see how far they get. For our grade level typing courses for 2nd through 12th grade, we do have the option to enable a course placement test. This is also available for the Typing Jungle course, which is recommended for grades 2 through 12. If you enable a course placement test, your students will have the option to take that placement test, and if they pass the first section of that test, it would unlock a certain section of lessons that they would then be able to skip, and so on. It goes by section. If they don't pass that first section, meeting the course requirements, they would be starting at the beginning unless you would like them to jump ahead. If it's the student's first year practicing typing and learning the correct finger positioning and things like that, we generally wouldn't recommend enabling a course placement test because you probably want them to have some time to review those habits and skills. But if the student has been, doing this for a while, you see they've got pretty good finger positioning, they're not, hunting and pecking for the keys, then a placement test could be a great option for them. If we go to reports here, this is where you can see a whole bunch of information about your student's activity. The activity log report just shows you every single attempt that the student has made since they've been working on the program. So if they were assigned other courses in previous years, you would be able to see that here as well. You would see that in the student activity log, but then in your class activity log, you'll see what your class has been doing with all of the different students. All of our reports can also be exported to either a CSV file or a PDF, if that ends up being helpful to look at. If we go to the activity summary report, this is where you can filter by a specific date range and see an overview of how the class is doing, as well as the specific students, information about their attempts that they've made, how much time they've spent on these attempts, stars, score, their overall words per minute and accuracy. One thing we do get questions about is this real accuracy piece versus just accuracy. If a student is completing an attempt and they make an error, but they go back and correct the error, the accuracy score doesn't count it as a mistake anymore. If we're looking at the real accuracy, even a corrected error is going to still be counted as an error. So the real accuracy will pretty much always be lower than the actual accuracy. If we look at our daily, weekly time report, this is really most useful if you do choose to set daily and weekly practice time goals for your students. You can have it highlight students who didn't meet the goal, or you can have everybody show up the same. You can have it show you specific days, or you can have it show you a week at a time from a specific date range. There's also a course progress graph, which is a great way to just get a quick visual of how far your students have gotten in the course. And you can filter that by specific course as well. It'll also show you with this color coding how they've performed on those lesson attempts. Unless you're allowing students to jump ahead, yours is not going to look like that. It's going to look much more like Iron Man up here, where everything is a solid bar because they're going in order. And then you can also click on these to get additional information. And for this one, because it is something you would print as a PDF, it does look different than the spreadsheets or CSV files you get from the other reports. This does generate a PDF for each specific student. I know a lot of teachers find this helpful for, the end of term when they want to look at a breakdown of what the student has done and how they've scored. We've also got this class stats tab where you can look at the students' attempts in this class compared to the grade level and the rest of the account. You can see their typing activity, Let's do monthly. I bet that'll get me something. And if your students are typing more consistently than my example students here, you will have more data that populates. And then we've got that punch card again that you saw earlier, and a practice calendar, which is going to show you which specific days the students practiced and how long they spent. And finally, we have our typing stats report here. This is similar to what you saw before, but it's going to have a speed comparison. It's also going to look at their accuracy, keyboard coverage, and it'll show you speed down here as well. Keyboard coverage is the percentage of the keys on the keyboard that the student has become proficient in. And that's pretty much it for the class-wide reports. We'll look at student reports in just a moment. There is also a scoreboard available for each course. And this is where you can see just, a quick look at how the students are performing in comparison to the other students in the class. And this is where we have that live activity view again that will update pretty much in real time of what the students in the class are working on. If we go to our class settings, you're going to see some familiar things from the bulk update as far as when your week starts and if you want to set time goals. It is also possible to adjust the minimum number of stars required to pass a lesson. By default, 1 star means the student met the minimum requirements to pass the lesson. If you want them to have to achieve higher than the minimum requirements, you can change that. By default, it's going to be set this way. Scoreboard visibility, if that's something that's enabled for your account, would be something you can adjust here. And then backspace behavior is just, do you want students to be able to use the backspace key or not? Generally, we would recommend, default to course behavior where they are able to go back and correct their mistakes because that's a habit that we want them to be in. There may be situations where you want to disable it. That's totally up to you. Here's that jump ahead option where they'd be able to skip ahead in the lessons. All of these things down here that you can lock or leave unlocked are those customizations on the student side that we'll look at when we log into the student portal. But basically, if students make customizations that you don't want them making anymore, this is where you can lock that for them. Same with down here. If you want them to not be able to adjust certain things on their end, this is where you would do that. And then for those of you who are teaching younger grades, specifically kindergarten or first grade, Jungle Junior is another course we'll look at. And by default, it's going to show uppercase letters, but you can change it so that the lesson text shows lowercase letters instead. And I think that's all we're going to look at for classes as a whole. I'm going to take a peek at the chat. Okay, so John, it looks like you responded.
Yeah, the only thing I wasn't sure is there is a question about the media specialist in the room. Because they're not rostered through Clever, would they need admin access, or how would they be able to access students? Can they create their own classes?
So I think the decision that was made previously was that their school administrator, who is rostered as a school administrator from Clever, could manually add them as an additional school admin, which will give them access to all of the classes in their specific school.
Perfect. Yeah. So I just had her to email me, and then we can have them connect with Trent, who can help her.
Perfect. All right. Yes. So hopefully that'll resolve that, but we can always circle back if needed. I'll also drop the support team email address in here in case you all end up needing that. Okay, if we go down to our students tab, this is another section with some stuff that's going to be pretty useful. Most of what's up here really won't be relevant to you because the rostering has already been done for you. But if we click on a specific student, We've got some information about them. We've got their overall typing performance as well. And then you can print a report card if you'd like. Mine's not going to be very interesting because Ironman hasn't been practicing very much, but it would show their recent data. Got a record history again. And then we have different badges that the student has earned. You'll see that in the student portal as well. There are certain goals, or if they meet them, they'll be awarded a badge. There are also badges here that teachers can award to students that are not necessarily included in the student portal, like things that would be awarded automatically. So the teacher can do that here. And then here we have the practice calendar for that specific student, showing the days they've been active. If we go to classes, I can see all of the classes that the student has been enrolled in. If you see this symbol, that means that they were archived. The old class was archived. So they're not going to see assignments from that class anymore. But you can click on progress and you would still be able to see any work that they did in any class that they were enrolled in, unless it has been manually cleared by an instructor. This is where you can adjust the difficulty level for an individual student. It's the same thing you saw at the class level, where you can increase or decrease their speed requirements or set a minimum required accuracy. And then the activity log, this is for a specific student. It will go back as far as they've been practicing in the program. And this is really useful if a student has a question maybe about why they didn't pass a lesson. You can click on this I button. Oh, this attempt is too old, but it would show you what the requirements for the lesson were in comparison to what the student scored. And then if we go to reports, this is where you can see some information about the student. Again, we have the practice calendar. We've also got a student-specific punch card showing you days of the week and times of day. And then the super detailed one with a lot of information that your students actually have access to on their end as well is the typing performance analysis. Your students will have a stats tab where they can see a lot of this too. We've gotten really positive feedback about students being able to see all of these reports. Some of them kind of geek out over it. You can use it for goal settings. They can see how they've been doing over time, their accuracy, their keyboard coverage, their speed, and the amount of time they've spent practicing. This keyboard mastery visual is pretty cool too. You can see how proficient they are with certain keys. You can see when they're trying to type that key, what they've ended up typing. And you can look at that for both speed and accuracy. It'll be color coded to show them how they've done and which keys are the strongest for them. We've also got finger mastery here. So this is, out of the keys that I'm supposed to be typing with my left pointer finger, how often am I typing those correctly? And how fast am I with those keys? And then we've also got speed and accuracy per character broken down here. And then you can click on a specific course here, and it would show you today, this week, last month, the student's practice time compared to the class and the grade level, their speed compared to the class and the grade level, keyboard coverage, a lesson plan completion rate, and then some key performance indicators. So once the student has enough data in the program, it will break down a whole lot of information for you here. It will also generate a class placement for coverage, speed, and then it will give them an overall grade if there's enough data here. One thing to be aware of for those of you who are teaching younger grade levels, if you have students working on Jungle Junior or the grade 1 typing program, that will be completion based. Those lessons aren't going to give them words per minute or accuracy scores like you'd see here. You'd have the time stats, the amount of time they've spent on the lessons, but it's not going to give them a grade because they have to type it correctly before it's going to let them move on. And then the last thing I'll show you for individual students, the vast majority of the time, you're not going to be clicking Edit Student because the student information is already being managed through Clever. But there is one thing at the bottom, which is the accessibility settings. If you have students with any of these specific needs, there are built-in accessibility settings that you can enable right here that will make these changes for your students. This is also possible to enable on the student side. And you know, a lot of these things that are activated or deactivated, you can also do them in the student portal if you have not disabled those settings to allow the students to make these changes. Some of them would have to be done with the accessibility settings specifically. If you've got students who have use of either their right hand or left hand only, we do also have specific courses that are designed for those students as well. I think most of you won't have a schools tab because that's more at the admin level. Same with this instructors tab. But if we go down to typing tests, this is another really cool feature that we get a lot of positive feedback about because you can create your own custom typing tests. You can decide when you want it to be available to your students. Sometimes teachers will enable these at the beginning, middle, and end of the year, the same exact test, and then the students, you know, can see how they've done over time. You can enter your own custom text, like if there's an article you read in class that you want to review, you want the students to type what was in the article, you can enter that in here. Or we also have pre-made text templates designed for different age groups or different parts of the keyboard. And if you decide you'd like to use one of our templates, you can also edit what's in there. So you could start with one of ours and make changes as needed. I would recommend, especially for such a big district, that when you do a typing test, you select only the students I select will be able to access the test. And you can decide how many attempts you want them to be able to have. You can also set a time limit on your test. But one thing to be aware of here is if you do set a time limit and the student doesn't finish in that time limit, it's going to count it as a failed attempt. It's not going to show you, like, you know, how they were doing until the timer ran out. It's going to say that they failed that attempt. You can also, you know, maybe at the beginning of the year, you want everyone to get a passing score on the test. You can do that here, or you can set specific criteria that you want them to meet. You can also decide at the end if you want a score to be shown to the students and what you want that to look like. You do also have the option to disable backspace for this test. That's definitely more common than disabling it in the class settings. And you can also have the option to print a certificate of achievement for any students who pass the test. This is something you would need to enable before they take the test in order to be able to generate the certificate for them. So I'm going to discard that one and then show you what it looks like after students have taken a test. So once students have started taking the test, I can look in here and see their overall performance. I can see when the test is active, the text of the test, and the settings that I've selected so far. Those can be edited. If I click on students, this is where you could say which students you want to have access to the test. Most frequently, it ends up being, you know, you do an entire class at a time, or you can also make different tests for specific students if you'd like. Once you have assigned the tests to those students, you can see if they have completed it or not over here. In instructors, this would be who has access to your test to assign it to their students. And then on the results page, here's where you can see how they actually did. These can be filtered by school, grade, or class. It'll give you the top 2 performances here, how many students have passed or failed. You can see their collective average performance. So as you can see, this test has been taken many times. So if you're having students take it multiple times, this is where you'd see, any trends in how they're performing. You've also got the best attempt overview here, where you can see the attempt that the program considers to be their best score. If you click on the student, if you click on the attempts here, you can see the details for this specific student and the other attempts that they've made. I'm guessing this is going to be too old, but you would also be able to watch a playback video of exactly how they did. You can also clear attempts if you want the student to redo an attempt. And then if you wanted to print certificates for the students, this is where you would do that. I'll show you what those look like. Here we go. So this is what the certificate would look like, and it would show you, I believe this shows you their most recent passing attempt, and it'll generate a separate PDF for everyone with their results. And then you can also export the attempts to a spreadsheet, a CSV file. If you want, it can show you all of their attempts, or you can have it just show you their best attempts. Down here in the courses tab is going to be another place where you can browse the different courses and see what you'd like to assign to your students. It'll show you, based on grade level if you'd like. And then, this is one place where you could assign the courses, or you could also view the lessons in the course. So you can see what's here. I know sometimes people have had trouble loading lessons from this screen, and we're told we haven't had that issue on our end, but if you do encounter that, just reloading the page and then pressing play again should fix that for you. But the thing that I find to be the most useful here is this little printer icon, because what this will do is it will generate a PDF that shows you the text of each lesson as well as the minimum requirements. So especially if you were looking at a course that is performance-based, unlike Jungle Junior, you would be able to see how things progress as students move through the course. And then if you wanted to adjust especially the speed requirements, you could see what it is you're actually adjusting. And we'll look at these courses more in depth when we're in the student portal. But right here is where you can create custom lessons if you would like to. We generally don't recommend doing that because, our courses that EdClub makes are the ones that we actually manage and update. But it is possible to create your own custom lessons as well, if that's something you would like to do. Down here in the Analytics tab is where you are going to see a ton of data about your class or your students, especially if you go down to the student section here and you just keep scrolling to the right, you will see more information maybe than you wanted to know about what your students are doing. This is where you're going to get a really detailed breakdown of everything. A lot of times we'll get questions about how the typing time is calculated, because it's not going to use the amount of time your students logged in for. It'll actually use the amount of time they spent typing. And if you look in here, this is where you would be able to see how much time they spent on different lesson types. So for example, typing time might be this amount, but maybe they spent some time watching lesson videos. That'll show up here. There are game levels built into the courses. It'll show you that time separately here, so you can actually get a better idea of specifically what your students have been working on. This support tab is where you can reach my team. You can create a support ticket here, and that will just send an email to that email address I put in the chat. That is a great way to get a hold of us. If you create a ticket, it's also going to send that conversation to your email inbox as well. And if you click on the EdClub Help Center here, this is where we just have anything and everything and more you could possibly want to know about the program. I really could not recommend this highly enough. Send that in the chat too. Lots of detailed breakdowns, and particularly the course resources section. If you're trying to decide which courses you want to assign to your students, I'm very partial to our relatively new grade level typing courses because they're going to have grade level content that the students end up typing about once they are done with the intro lessons. So we've got handbooks, we've got standards here, and Typing Jungle, which has been around for a long time now. We've got additional resources available for you as well, including handouts. So that is a great place to explore. And then if you've created a support ticket, this is where you'd see that. Nobody here is going to need to worry about this billing tab or this settings tab. I think really, this is kind of the extent of what we would want to look at the teacher portal that's going to be relevant to you guys. The only other thing I do want to point out before we look at the student portal is that if you use your search box up here, you can look for specific students, or you can also search help topics directly from right here. So maybe I want to adjust the difficulty like I showed you earlier. This will take you to an article in the Help Center about how to do that. Okay, any questions before we move into the student portal? That's where I'll show you.
There was a fun question in the chat that I wasn't sure the answer of. Teachers were wondering if they're rostered with the Typing Club with their students, is there any way that the actual teacher could go through Typing Club as well to learn how to type?
That's such a great question. So the teachers are not going to be rostered with a student account where they would actually be able to practice. We do have an individual edition of the program where you could make a free account just for your own personal use. There are free and paid versions of that. It is possible, especially if you were having trouble with that course preview section, it is possible to create just like example students as well and enroll them manually in a class. That can get a little bit tricky with the licensing, but I don't think it would really be a problem, especially if you're, making a student, you say demo teacher, then you could log in as that student as well.
Awesome. That was the only other question I saw.
Fantastic. Okay, well, let's get logged in as a student and you can see what that looks like. You do have this handy login as button if you want to log in and see what your students are seeing. So this is what the student homepage is going to look like. Your students are not going to have tons and tons and tons of courses showing up here. They're only going to see what is assigned to their current classes, so they're non-archived classes. For my demo account, there's a whole lot of different ones on here. Over here, once they have started working on a course, they'll see their, if they're doing a performance-based course, their speed, their overall speed, and then last week and last month, what their speed was. Everyone would be able to see their time stats and if you've set a goal, whether or not they've met that goal. Students doing performance-based lessons can also see their keyboard coverage percentage here and their accuracy score. And if that has changed in some way, that'll show up here as well. This stats tab is what I was telling you about. That looks a lot like the report we saw in the teacher portal, where students can look at their own stats and get a really detailed view of how they're doing and that change over time, all those very specific reports I showed you. Again, yours is not going, your students, it's not going to look like this. They're not going to see a ton of different courses here. They'll see the ones that they're actually enrolled in and working on. But then you would be able to view their stats in that specific course as well. Got that lesson plan completion rate, practice calendar, punch card, and then at the very bottom, I believe it is their 10 most recent attempts that they would see down here. We go to the badges tab here. This is where you're going to see the badges that the student has earned and the ones that would be awarded automatically if they keep working. And up here, if they're assigned multiple courses, they'd be able to see those as a drop-down list. If you do have students who would benefit from having their portal show up in another language, you can change the interface language from here. This is not going to change any of the content of the courses themselves, the lessons and the videos. If you've assigned ones that are in English, those are still going to show up that way. If you wanted the lessons and videos in a different language, you'd have to actually assign a course that was created in that language. But changing the language up here will change what they see here. It'll change some of the instructions that they see when they are in the course. Things like that. Okay, let's look at some of the courses themselves. So Typing Jungle is our flagship course for grades 2 and up. This one's the one that's been around the longest. It starts with the home row and it moves into top row, bottom row. It's going to teach the lessons in order of where the keys appear on the keyboard. And most of our typing courses do that, except for Jungle Junior and the grade 1 typing, which would go in alphabetical order. So here you can see, the keys that they're going to learn, and then they would keep practicing until the end. These lessons are getting longer and more challenging as they go through. If you have enabled a placement test for them, this is where they could take that. And you can see, based on these icons, there are a lot of different types of lessons as well. These unboxing lessons are when we're just being introduced to new keys and which finger we're supposed to use to type those keys. Those are completion based. I can't keep going if I type the wrong thing. And then it moves into lessons that are actual performance-based practice lessons. And we do have different types of games. The games will get more challenging as the students move through the course. Here, we're just typing specific letters. Elsewhere, we're going to be typing complete words, and it will become, faster paced, more challenging as they go along. There are lesson videos built in here that talk about different topics, such as, the importance of learning how to type, why the keyboard's set up the way it is, sitting straight and being healthy, unlike what I'm doing right now, and things like that, just about good habits and learning about typing in general. We do have, let me start just by showing you a performance-based lesson. This is a very early performance-based lesson where we're just practicing these new keys that we've learned. You can see as I go, I've got my words per minute populating over some sections. If I make an error, it's going to turn red. If I keep going after that, it will stay red. If I make an error and then I go back and fix it, it will turn yellow as a corrected error. So you can see as I'm going, I've got my speed and accuracy showing down here. Eventually, now that I've stopped typing, this is going to pause itself. And then these are those customizable features that I mentioned when we were looking in the teacher portal. This is the lesson replay button where they could just start the attempt over completely. And then this is where they can change their keyboard. They can also turn the hand guide on or off, or have it show left hand or right hand only. But generally, if you're doing that, it's going to be an accessibility setting and or the actual right hand or left hand only course. This is where you can decide if you want the keyboard sound to be on. It's kind of like a typewriter noise. I don't know if you'll be able to hear it when I'm doing it. I personally am not a huge fan of that, so I like to keep mine off. It is also possible to enable a voiceover right here. You can have it only read the letters. You can have it be fully guided where it's going to say, use your whatever finger to type this key. And then the volume for that can be adjusted.
1, 2, 3.
As can the voice, the pitch, the speed.
Type the key F.
I gotta remember to turn it back off. And here's where they can change their font size. There's the extra large accessible size as well. And this is where they'd be able to change their font. Again, all of this if you allow them to do it. There are different backgrounds too. Sometimes what teachers will do is let students adjust it at the beginning and then go back and lock it. Or, you know, maybe it's something that's just a fun feature for the students to have and you don't ever need to worry about it. But that's how they would do those things. And then if you have students who don't like seeing the live words per minute and accuracy while they're typing, you can turn those things off here. And this block on errors feature would be, you know, if I am typing 2 errors in a row, I have to go back and fix something before I can continue. So I'm just going to reset my settings here. I'm going to go ahead and finish this lesson so I can show you the results page, what you would see for a performance-based lesson. For completion-based lessons, you're going to see a check mark and it's going to say, you know, good job. For performance-based lessons, it's going to show you stars, it's going to show you your score, and what the requirements actually were. This platinum 5 stars is considered a perfect score. There are different calculations to figure out, you know, what kind of stars you're earning. And then you'll see accuracy and real accuracy here, along with what the requirement was to pass the lesson. You see how long it took me and what my words per minute score was compared to the requirement. If I didn't pass the lesson or if I got a pretty low score, it might tell me to go back and try again and maybe focus on my accuracy this time. And then the students do have the option. Here's where you can see that playback that I kept talking about, but my attempts were too old to actually show it to you. You can see how they did there. If the student has done the lesson multiple times, like I have with this demo account, you can see change over time as well. And then in our last couple of minutes here, I do want to just highlight a couple of other lesson types and then show you these other courses that we have. So this lesson is called an anchoring lesson. To do these lessons, I have to hold down a specific key with one hand while I type with my other hand. And these are a really great way to help your students stop the hunting and pecking and force them to really focus on where their hands and fingers should be. We also, once you get far enough into the course, have these dynamic practice lessons that will appear periodically. And these are going to generate based on the specific student's needs. So the keys that I need more practice on are going to appear here. You could have students sitting next to each other doing lesson 88 and they've got completely different text that they're practicing. And then I want to quickly show you Jungle Junior and how that does look different. It's going in alphabetical order. It's got more videos. It's going to talk about the letters and the sounds that they make. While students are practicing, there are some games that appear in here. And the grade level typing courses As I mentioned, grade 1 is going to look a lot like Jungle Junior, but it goes into specific first grade patterns, sight words, phrases, punctuation, even short sentences. By the time you get to the end, you might be typing about computers. Short sentences here. You can see it's color coded. Mike the Monkey is going to show you which finger to use and where the key is. And then similarly, if we go to one of our grade level typing courses, like Typing Grade 2, you're going to see it looks a lot like Typing Jungle. It's the same types of lessons. It starts with a review of the finger positioning and where the different keys are. But then it will talk about grade level content. And Florida is one of the states we specifically used the standards for to figure out what the lessons were going to be about. And those will gradually become more difficult in a way that is based on the grade level. So by the end of the Typing Grade 2 course, they're typing complete sentences. And then I want to show you just how that changes a little bit, and it gradually gets more difficult. The course structure is the same, and that is one reason where a placement test could be really useful. If your students already have their finger positioning solid and have good habits, maybe they don't need to redo these intro lessons and they could just skip ahead to the content. So again, we've got grade level specific content that students are typing about. And then you can see these will get more complicated. I'm trying to zoom out to show you more of the passage. But the content of the lessons, as well as the difficulty and the text itself, will be based on the grade level expectations. We do also have supplemental typing courses that you can assign to your students that are more kind of just for fun. We have these animated typing stories where if I were to start typing, I don't know if it's gonna let you hear the music, but there's playing and the animation and the pictures come to life. If I stop or if I start making errors, it slows down, the music turns off. So those are kind of fun. And then we also have some new supplemental typing courses that our team has been releasing. And when you assign the courses, you'll see which grade levels they're designed for. But fall events and celebrations is just a nice way for students to practice typing. If they're able to type complete sentences, this is a good option for them. It would just be typing facts about fall events and celebrations. This isn't an instructional course telling them how to do it. It's just additional practice. We've got a whole bunch of those that have come out recently and are available for different grade levels. I think that's where I'll stop for now. I know that was a whole lot of information. I'm also going to drop a link in the chat to our Vimeo channel, which was very recently updated with a whole bunch of additional videos that will go over pretty much everything that I talked about here. You can also always feel free to reach out to us directly. We'll be more than happy to help.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Emily. We appreciate that. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask in the chat for now. Before that, though, don't go. Hold on. We still have a couple more things that we can chat about before you go. So I'm going to actually take over presenting again. And I wanted to remind everyone, yay, there's fun. I want to remind everyone that we do have our e-learning courses. So I put in the chat, if you didn't register for this already in e-learning, please go ahead and sign in. We will be making sure you're there. You do not have to do the follow-up if you don't want to, but PD is asking us that everyone registers for everything now in ELM. So that link takes you directly to ELM, this course in ELM. But we also have our website as well, which I'll share on the next slide, which we have all of our ELM courses listed here in the top left corner. All of the stuff we're doing today, and then also on November 11th, those will be there. But then we also have a ton of asynchronous courses available if you need points for other things from AI. We're going to be putting a book creator course up. There's a ton of courses there. And then we will also include the video for today. In the application side of this, we have a TypingClub support page as well on the website. So if you need some more information, all of that is located on the TypingClub page as well. And with that, we do want to ask you to continue to stay in touch with us. Some of you may have found out about this session through our mailing list. So we do have a mailing list that we send out normally like once or twice a month of all the events that are coming up, shortly or coming soon. So it's just hard to sometimes get the word out to you guys in the classroom. And so while we do follow the proper protocol through your principal, oftentimes the principals don't forward those messages to you guys. And you guys are the ones that we want to reach the most anyway. And we have actually been able to offer paid courses in the past. Last year, we were able to do after-school courses for an hour and pay that $25 hourly rate. And we advertise through your principals, but also through our mailing list. So please feel free. I put the link in the chat for all 4 of these, but the mailing list is that first one. We're also on Twitter. If you're doing anything great on Twitter or X, please feel free to tag us there, and our YouTube channel is there as well. And then that link to our website is there too. You can also search for us in the portal under Ed Tech, and you'll see our little icon here, this little power button icon, and that will allow you to get to our full training page as well. And then the next thing is we are actually going to be having our 25th annual technology conference this year. Our first conference we ever had was in 1998, believe it or not. I know that's more than 25 years ago, but there have been hurricanes and, the pandemic, but this is the 25th anniversary of our conference. We are proud. Not many districts continue to offer a conference like this. And so, we tried to make this as an alternative to FETC because FETC in Orlando is expensive. So we offer this free conference. It will be again at Dr. Garcia High School, the brand new high school that was opened up last year. And you are also more than welcome to present at our conference. So we would love to see you share your knowledge at our conference this year. So the link I put in the chat as well, technologyconference.palmbeachschools.org. You can feel free. Applications to present are live now. Even if you don't want to present, we will be launching registration over the holiday break. So when you come back from break in January, registration will be open. We are actually going to be doing honey baked ham for lunch. We have an amazing lineup of featured speakers from the industry. So you are not going to want to miss that one. And so I just want to share on behalf of the entire educational technology team, thank you so much for being here. Thank you, Emily, for sharing all of this amazing knowledge to help our kids learn how to be better typers. And we will continue to stay on after if you have any questions. But thank you for joining us. And if you ever need any support, we are here to support you on the EdTech team. And with that, I will stop the recording.